Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers, sisters, viewers, and friends of Iqra TV. Welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host, Iqbal Vana. As I keep saying to you every week, week in, week out, I come and invade your privacy in your homes, trying to bring to you people of interest, issues of interest that resonate with yourselves, that affect people, particularly the Muslim community, on a day-to-day basis. So every week I try and bring subjects that are of real interest and that affect our lives. Last week we were talking about the health issues and how the new health structures are going to affect our communities as we move forward. Today I'm talking about something really special that has tested and concerned the Muslim community, particularly over the last 8 months with the political situation in this country and what has been happening in Gaza and in Greater Palestine. The Muslim community in this country for years and years and years has been the backbone of the success of the Labour Party in many constituencies. But many Muslims feel, and this has been demonstrated by communities up and down the country who have now, people have come out into the streets to question the Labour Party's position, particularly on Gaza and what is happening over there. As has been described, a genocide has been taking place by the United Nations and others, and yet the leader of the Labour Party has consistently refused to acknowledge the damage that is causing the individuals and the people of Gaza and the population of Gaza, including many women and children who have been killed. Some have described it as genocide and butchery, yet obviously the policy has not really changed. So up and down the country, within the Muslim community in particular, there's been this great movement to try and deselect or de-elect Labour Party politicians, particularly in both local government and at the national level. We saw during the local elections in some areas like Bradford and Batley and Dewsbury and other places that a lot of established Labour councillors lost their seats. That momentum is now moving into the parliamentary election, which has been called for the 4th of July. So up and down the country we have seen many Muslim people, men, women, who are concerned about the politics and the policies of the Labour Party as well as the Conservative Party, and want to now say enough is enough and we are now going to enter into the political arena to try and make a difference. So today I have with me a gentleman who has been successful in being nominated as the independent candidate for the new constituency of Dewsbury and Batley, which previously was Batley and Spen, had been Labour for many years, except for a short time in 1979, and before that it was 70 years a Labour constituency. So that is now merged with the Dewsbury part of Batley and Dewsbury and Batley, and the Muslim community last week came together, Pakistani Muslims, Indian Muslims, Gujarati Muslims, Deobandi, Barelvi, Ahle Hadith, they all came together as one ummah to say we want to put one particular individual to fight for this constituency. And mashallah, by the grace of Allah and the generosity of many people, there were 11 other candidates who wanted to stand. In the end, all those candidates have decided that they will all work together collectively behind this one particular candidate who has been selected by the community themselves. So I'm deeply honored to welcome Iqbal Muhammad, who is the new designated candidate for the independent people, the independent party of Dewsbury and Batley, to fight for that seat. Is going to be a unique opportunity because for the first time the two major conurbations of the Muslim community, Batley and Dewsbury, have been collected together as one constituency. So it's going to be really interesting. So Iqbal Muhammad Sahab, welcome. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you for giving your time to me. You have taken on a huge challenge here. Politics is not an easy game, and this is something that is unique and is something that is going to be quite challenging and testing, and I'm sure Allah in His mercy will help you in any way He can Allah, to try and make you successful or otherwise. So welcome onto the program.
Thank you very
Just
much.
tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, have you been a politician before? Have you been in politics before? Or is this something that you've always been interested in? Because I know when we met last time you said that you wanted to help other politicians improve the life of people within the area that you live in. So obviously I thought you had some background information in socio-economic sort of factors. So what is your background, sir?
Thank you very much. for inviting me, Iqbal Bhai. Alhamdulillah, I'm humbled and honoured to have been selected as the independent parliamentary candidate for the newly formed Dewsbury and Batley constituency by the community. It's a real honour and a privilege. My background, I'm actually by discipline a physicist and an engineer.
Right.
And I went into professional life to build a career, and alhamdulillah did well. But a few years into being able to support myself and my family, I was exposed to some charity work in India originally, in my mum's village or town. So I got involved in supporting and fundraising and guiding the building and running of a new school, which has now been running for close to 28 years.
Oh, mashallah, very good.
And that gave me an interest into actually you can have a career, but you can give back. I think that's a really important learning that I took. I studied at Durham, so before I went to Durham, actually I should have started by saying that I am born and raised in Dewsbury.
So you're a local person?
So I'm a local person. There are many areas in Dewsbury, some are more affluent than others. And I grew up in one of the most deprived areas, not just in Kirklees, but in the whole country.
Yes.
But Allah blessed me with the guidance to work hard at whatever I had to do. So I took an interest in school and studied. And that way, through hard work, I've managed to educate, get an education, go to university, and now I'm able to support my family and contribute to small projects here and there.
MashaAllah, very good.
My work takes me, or has taken me, in many places around Europe and several places around the world.
Right.
And the real trigger or catalyst for me to take an active interest in politics was the result of the Brexit vote.
Right.
So
in 2019, obviously.
Yes. 2016.
Sorry, 2016, 2019.
So
Johnson came in. Yep.
Yeah. So I was working in Germany for a client, and actually, because the pound crashed, the value went down. My salary went up by a significant amount, but I sat on the sofa literally crying for what our country had done to itself.
So obviously you're a sort of Remainer. You were a Remainer, not wanting to leave the European Union.
But the frustration or the simmering anger came from the fact that I knew that the British public had been blatantly deceived. And when I saw senior politicians and cabinet ministers standing in front of cameras knowingly lying to the British public, this triggered something inside that said, this kind of governance cannot be acceptable to me or to anyone else.
So you wanted clean politics, I presume, so being honest and truthful.
There's a basic requirement for public service, and I've said this now a couple of times, but not to your viewers. For me, politics done correctly is one of the highest forms of public service. And for Muslims and Christians and religious people, an act of worship. And for this institution and this opportunity to serve humanity, our country, our people, to be misused and abused for personal gain was heartbreaking.
So okay, so I mean, obviously you're a professional. Your background is very professional. Obviously, there's no doubt about it. You've traveled around the world, as you say, around Europe in particular, and you did not agree with the Brexit vote, which is squarely, we know, was primarily based on immigration. The lies about 2 million Turks coming over, Muslim Turks coming over, if we remain in the UK. That was one of the messages. 350 million pounds a week coming back to the United Kingdom. And as the mainstream media has pointed out over the last few weeks, most of that is not proved to be true at all. So you're right in the sense that people were given misinformation. But in terms of the recent the turmoil which has been going on, particularly around Gaza and the 7th of October, and we've said this on this program, we totally condemn the actions of Hamas on the 7th of October. Islam does not accept accept the murder of innocent people, regardless who they are. So we're very clear on that. So how did that particular incident, an event, so did that trigger something different to say, I need to become a more proactive member of the political sort of structure?
So yes. So Gaza has played a key part, but not in 2023.
Right.
So the last time, so Israel goes into Gaza and starts bombing Gaza every 2-3 years, normally around Ramadan. The last time it had overtly attacked Gaza, and it was in the news, there were protests, and I was at one of these rallies listening to speeches, and again just feeling that people who believe in justice and just basic humanity for all, and who have been given blessed with resources and the opportunity, we should try and help to stop this cycle of violence, murder, genocide, oppression, ethnic. You can just describe
whatever. Yeah, I mean, lots of people describe it in different senses.
So I, around that time, became a member of the Labour Party.
Right.
So this is.
Oh, you actually joined the Labour Party?
I joined the Labour Party.
Oh, wow. I wasn't aware of that. Yeah.
With the intention to learn and hopefully get an opportunity to run for Parliament.
So you've had this ambition for quite a while then?
For 2 to 3 years.
Right, okay.
But the wonderful thing is my aim was to run for my town, my constituents, where I grew up and where I got the opportunities that I did to be able to be successful and be prosperous. But if that wasn't going to be possible, I would have tried somewhere in the country that would have accepted me to make a contribution, to our country, the way it's run, and to try and improve.
So how did you
lives.
find, once you joined the Labour Party, how did you find the Labour Party structures internally? Because obviously, I presume you were a member of the constituency Labour Party. Did you attend the local party sort of meetings and things like that?
So what I found was in Dewsbury, the constituency borders hadn't changed. Was a lack of organisation, a lack of leadership, and a clear purpose. They were very active at the local level. The Labour had many councillors, but the way in which the process was implemented wasn't always fair or transparent. But democracy is democracy, and you have to work within the structures and process around. And I was doing training, I was reading around how selections were happening. There were a couple of by-elections that Labour lost. But I was hoping it was a fair...
parliamentary by-elections?
Parliamentary. But I was hoping it was a fair and transparent process, and I was wanting to participate in that.
So did you, being a local member of the local Labour Party, did you try to become a local councillor first, or do you just want to go straight into the national sort of scenario?
So my job takes me all over the country and all over Europe. I'm travelling quite a bit, or was travelling quite a bit, and it would have been quite difficult to be a a really good, effective local councillor whilst trying to maintain an international role in business.
Right.
So it just wasn't going to be fair on the community for me to take a role and then be absent or not available to support people.
Okay. So, I mean, in terms of political structures, obviously, you have joined the Labour Party. And when did you decide that, you know, the Labour Party was not the right home for you?
So I started becoming familiar with the history, the recent history. So, and how the previous leader had been treated and then finally
You're
expelled.
talking about Jeremy
Corbyn.
Yeah, okay.
I then saw a documentary that was made by Al Jazeera, the biggest leak of party documentation and emails in the history of the Labour Party. And it was a 3-part series, and I learnt a lot. But then what I found is that none of the mainstream media even touched on that investigation or the findings. And you know, people will correct me if I'm wrong, but if I recall correctly, what I'm reading now, so any kind of discrimination against anyone based on colour of skin or religion or where they're from is unacceptable. You know, to any human, normal, basic human being in every religion, including anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and others. But there have been more practicing and openly practicing Jewish Labour members that have been expelled from the Labour Party since Keir Starmer took over than in the whole history of the Labour Party, or in the last 100 years or something like this.
Are you saying the Labour Party has expelled Jewish people
Yes.
from the Labour Party, practicing
Yes.
Jewish people? Why would they do that? Because the Keir Starmer is actually seen to be a very strong supporter of Israel and the Jewish community.
So I think I agree with the first part of your statement. Keir Starmer and the party leadership, the elected shadow cabinet, and the party Labour Party employees and executive in the centre, they are supportive of Israel, very supportive of Israel.
That is the understanding of the majority of people, and that's why this independent
But they are
movement-
not supportive. It would be wrong for me, I believe, to say they are supportive of all Jews per se. So you have to be of a certain view and an opinion around Israel to be acceptable in the Labour Party.
So the Labour Party itself, under the Keir Starmer, you're saying, has been discriminating against Jews who may not agree with certain Labour Party politics. Is that how I understand it?
Absolutely. So most people are good people. Britain, any other country, regardless of religion. Most religions teach tolerance, community service, inclusion, brotherhood, sisterhood. So I don't think there is a big movement, Asian, Muslim or otherwise, that is out to be discriminatory towards the Jewish people or the Jewish faith. And as being an Abrahamic religion, there is a huge overlap between Judaism,
Well,
Christianity.
I think it's fairly clear, you know,
Islam.
from what is happening at the moment, that 99.9% of the people out there don't see that overlap or that connectivity. They see it as a black and white issue between Israel, as they describe it, Zionist state, and the non-Zionist state. And I know I've been to many, many demonstrations where there have been Jewish members of the community stood up alongside other people to say, this is not in our name. Yet those people are being shunned anyway by the mainstream media and the political structures. So I mean, these are the sort of more detailed, fundamental internal party politics. Obviously, you have decided to stand as an independent independent member of Parliament in this new constituency of Dewsbury and Batley. Now the dynamics, as you say, is so different at the moment, nationally and internationally. How do you think, as I said to you before the program, probably 80–90% of the Muslim population in Dewsbury Batley would want to make sure that you succeed.
Inshallah.
But how do you feel that the rest of the non-Muslim population will have some sort of a relationship with you, your candidacy, and how will you build? I mean, we're now going to be going to a break, so this is something you may want to just consider. How do you feel that that constituency will need to support you in a way you would like them to support you? For them, Gaza may be a very distant issue, but it's the local issues that they may be concerned about. The NHS, like I said, deprivation, lack of employment opportunities, education opportunities, all these factors that touch everyone's lives, but particularly the lives of the constituents of Dewsbury and Batley, particularly in the non-Muslim community. All communities, regardless of age, race, faith, etc., will suffer the same consequences at the moment. So I just want to think about this before we come back to after the break. How do you think that community will resonate with your message? And what message would you like to give them, as a candidate for the Dewsbury and Batley constituency? I hope you found what Iqbal Muhammad has been saying fascinating, and learning his background. Obviously, he has a lot of experience of politics as well as the structure of politics and how it works. I mean, obviously, and that is something he's going to bring when he stands for the election on the 4th of July. And we hope to come back to him after the break to talk about some of the other issues that I've just mentioned. So inshallah, don't go away. Go for your tea, coffee, Faluda, and I'll be back with you. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.